Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Tuesdays webinar on MDM implementation, Informatica hosted versus cloud versus on-prem. In this session, we'll go over the different models of implementing the Informatica MDM solution. The webinar is going to be conducted by Dilip Yeliguri, who has been working on Informatica tools for almost 15 years, out of which the last 9 years were on MDM. He has implemented over 20 MDM products across 14 industries and has experience in consulting through IPS, owning and managing the MDM applications as a customer and also consulting via Informatica Partner SI. Before we start off, here are some housekeeping tips. Today's webinar is going to be scheduled for 1 hour as usual. The webinar is pre-recorded. There will be a webcast for 45 minutes, and to the end of 15 minutes, we will be addressing your questions going live. All dial-in participants will be muted for the presenters to present without any interruption. Your questions can be submitted through the Q&A section, and we'll be addressing them to the end of the presentation. The webinars will be recorded and will be available in the Informatica Support YouTube channel and the Success Portal. The link will be emailed to you. Please set aside some time to complete the post-webinar survey and provide your feedback and suggestions for upcoming topics for the Tech Tuesdays webinars. The Tech Tuesdays webinars is a webinar series introduced within the Success Portal. The Informatica Success Portal is a micro-learning platform that offers free and unlimited learning to all registered users. The Success Portal lists your success offerings, your customer success manager information, bookings available in the Ask an Expert session, and customized recommendations and content. I request Dilip to take over the presentation further. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda, for the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and attending this webinar. Hope I make your time well spent. Today, I want to share some insights into various options of maintaining and managing the Informatica MDM software. I have accumulated this knowledge over 9 years while I was helping 20 plus customers across 14 industries and helping them achieve their business goals using Informatica's MDM product. As part of this webinar, we are not suggesting what you as a customer should buy or not. We are here to empower you and provide guidance on various aspects to be considered to make that decision. The agenda for today is identifying the various components of MDM, recognizing the possible combinations of vendor software, walkthrough of a typical on-prem architecture, walkthrough of a typical customer-managed cloud architecture, walkthrough of a typical Informatica hosted MDM architecture, and pros and cons between all these models. And lastly, time for some question and answers. Let us understand the key components of MDM infrastructure. Informatica MDM, as you all might already know, is a 3-tier architecture. The first and the foremost tier is the MDM software. The MDM software is a combination of multiple applications like the Hub server, Process server, ActiveOS server, Elasticsearch, provisioning tool, and E360 UI. Let me briefly explain what these components of MDM do and how they help build this MDM software for you. The Hub server is the core component of the MDM software where all your data model, your data domains are configured, the tables are created, the columns are created, the sources are defined, the match rules are configured. This is where your trust and survivorship rules are defined. This is where you define your hierarchies, define your security roles, access privileges, and manage multiple ORSs if you have, and also create job batch groups and monitor those jobs. So the hub server is the critical client tool or the component of the MDM software, which makes the whole MDM as a critical component. Coming to the process server. So this is the component of MDM which is responsible for processing the stage, load, and load jobs, and is also the critical component that is used for processing any cleansing in the MDM lifecycle. Either it is as batch, real time, or from the UI. The next component is ActiveOS. ActiveOS is the BPM tool that is available out of the box as an executable component of MDM, and this component is responsible for defining the workflows for all the activities within MDM. So the type of activities that it includes could be between creating a new record, updating existing records, reviewing them, and creating some workflows out of it, or executing some manual merge tasks, executing some unmerged activities. Pretty much any activity in the data stewardship life cycle that requires a workflow will be utilizing the ActiveOS BPM engine. And as part of the data stewardship activities on a day-to-day basis, the critical component is to research your data in MDM. And for you to research or explore the data, you need a strong search engine. So Informatica MDM is using the Elasticsearch as a technology or a tool that helps you search for data in various slices and dices. So Elasticsearch gives you Google-like search within the MDM application so that you can search for several attributes in one go and across domains. It could be across tables, it could be stored in various forms, and all of that data is available to search using this single Elasticsearch feature in the application. And this application has to be designed. So in order for you to design this application, there is a component called as provisioning tool. So the provisioning tool gives the developers the capability to create a user-friendly and also design the layout for your users. It could be the login homepage, the dashboard page. It could be the layout of your domains of data. It could be the way in which you define security access to different roles of people. All of it is designed and created in the provisioning tool. And with the help of the provisioning tool, you create what we call as the E360 UI. So this is the UI that is available for the data stewards to interact with MDM day in, day out. They would be accessing the data, they would be interacting with the data, they could be governing the data, they could be editing the data, they could be establishing golden records using the manual merge task. All of it is accessible to the data steward via the E360 UI. So these are the critical components of Informatica MDM. So the next tier that we need to discuss is the application server. The application server is the component which actually hosts the MDM software and all of its components. All these components are to the application server and they are executed throughout the process, and all those requests and responses are hosted or managed by the application server. The third tier and the final tier is the database layer. And this is where all the MDM configuration, the metadata that supports the configuration, and more importantly, the actual golden records or the master data that you are creating is stored. The Informatica MDM tier is the same, whatever combination of other two tiers are. So let us first start looking at understanding what are the supported and certified application servers for Informatica MDM to work on. Informatica MDM, unlike other Informatica tools, does not come with an internal application server. So for Informatica MDM to be running, it definitely needs a third-party application server. And the options that are available for us are Oracle WebLogic or Red Hat JBoss and IBM WebSphere. So these three application servers cover almost every customer's situations and needs. There are certain outliers where certain customers may need or may be using different application servers, but that is probably a small fraction of the entire customer base. And these are well vetted out and well established application servers, and they usually cater to pretty much every need of our customers. And when I say these are these supported and certified versions, you may have some questions about what is the difference between the supported and certified versions, and we'll be discussing that in a little bit. So once we have understood the application options for application servers, let us take a brief look at the certified and supported databases for Informatica MDM. As of now, multi-domain MDM supports these three relational databases only, which are Oracle database, Microsoft SQL Server, and IBM's DB2. Again, these three databases cover a wide variety of our customers' current situations and needs. Now that we understand the various vendors that are available, let us see what options are available and what combinations of options are there for an MDM installation to be performed. So as you see, there are like 3 databases and 3 application servers. And if you do the math, there are 9 high-level possible combinations that can be used to perform an MDM install. And out of these 9 combinations, the customer has to go through a lot of scrutiny to understand and establish the perfect pair that suits your organization needs. And for you to be able to do that, you may need to consider a lot of factors, and some of them would be like the licensing cost. How much does it cost for you to get a particular database or a particular application server? And how much lead time do you need? How much time do you need to install it? How much landscape does it take? Is it brand new in your organization, or do you have already some expertise and experience in maintaining and managing those softwares? Because there could be so many other applications in your enterprise that are already using, say, Oracle database or a SQL Server database or a DB2 database. So you need to understand the landscape of your enterprise architecture. You should also be taking into consideration of the administrative skills. Like you need to add new workforce to maintain these databases and application servers. If you already have a skill set that is, you already have homegrown applications that are running on Oracle WebLogic server. So it would be naturally easy to scale up on Oracle WebLogic server rather than bringing in a totally different tool, something like IBM WebSphere. Or maybe you want to get out of one particular option and want to totally shift into a new one. So it depends on different situations you are in and what your organizational roadmap looks like. And you should also be taking into consideration the maintenance cost to keep up these applications up and running. You should also be considering the compatibility across these platforms. And also the most important thing is the stability of the software and the way you consider the MDM application. Either it's like a mission critical application, or if it is a tier 1, tier 2 application across your enterprises that you cannot have any downtime. So in those kinds of situations, you should also consider the stability of the platform and how reliable you can be on these particular applications. So with the help of all these factors, you should be able to come up with a final high-level combination. And once you have made that particular high-level combination, then you can go to the next steps of identifying the specific flavors and versions of the combination that you have just selected. So say, for example, let's go with a popular word for MDM, which is the Oracle database over JBoss server. Once you have identified this high-level combination, there are a few more choices for you to make. And this is where the product availability matrix or the PAM comes into picture. Every version of MDM has its own PAM, which gives us a much more granular information. Here, I have the PAM of MDM version 10.3 hotfix 1. As per this extract of the PAM, I have the option to choose Oracle 11.204 or 12.102 or 12.201 or 18C or Amazon RDS for Oracle 12.201 or 12.202. And for all these available versions of Oracle, I have all these various flavors of operating systems or different operating systems that I can install this database on. And this is a huge matrix, and there are so many combinations that says either it's a C or an S. So let's take an example of a particular combination. Let's see, you want to select the Oracle version 12.201, and you want to say install it on Microsoft Windows Server 2016. So this particular combination says it's a C. C means it's a certified combination. And there are other combinations that are classified as S, which means supported but not certified. So this is how you can read the product availability matrix and come to a conclusion on which particular combination of software versions that you would like to select and how you would want to build your own environment. So one critical thing that you need to be considering while choosing the versions of software is be very specific to the minor versions as well, not just the major versions. The main critical reason is there could be some slight variations that are not compatible with a different minor version under the same major version, and that could give you some unexpected behavior of the software, and it may also not hold up your support warranty. So just to be careful, just be careful and cognizant about what exact version of software that you are picking up and trying to install your MDM on. So let me give a little more explanation on what does that C and S mean. So C is basically a certified version which Informatica has tested and has approved for this particular specific platform combination. And S means it is a certified but not it is supported but not certified combination. This means that even though a customer will be running on a non-certified platform, Informatica will still honor the SLAs in a support contract. Similarly, here I have the PAM for the same 10.3 hotfix 1 MDM software, and there are different flavors and options that are available for the application server. And with the previous example, if I want to install JBoss as my application server, I have multiple options to pick and choose from. So I would like to install Red Hat JBoss EAP 7.1, and I can install this JBoss on any of these available operating systems. And just as a similar example of the Oracle database, if I would like to install Red Hat JBoss EAP 7.1 on Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.4, this still is a certified combination. And there are so many other combinations that I can still definitely go for, but they are supported but not certified. So it's not that it's inferior, but Informatica has utmost confidence in the combinations that are certified. So this is how you can pick your software version combinations. But once you have identified your database and the application server, the next component that needs to be taken care of is the users that are accessing the application through the UI. And there are various competitive browsers that are available in the market, but Informatica MDM is supported for for these specific versions that are listed in your PAM. So say, for example, I would like to use the Google Chrome 72.x, and I would like to use it on my Windows 10 machine. That is a certified browser. And you would also need to take care of the JRE that needs to be installed on your client machine while accessing, say, the Hub console or trying to perform any of the configuration. And for also the data steward users who are using the browsers to render the data, they should also make sure that they have the accurate version of Adobe Flash installed on their browser. And there is also an important point that I would like to mention about Adobe Flash, that Adobe has declared an end of life for Flash as end of the year 2020, which is like December 31st, 2020. So if you are using a current version of MDM that requires Adobe Flash for it to function, you definitely have to work on an upgrade path, because as of now, there are a lot of features in the current version of MDM that require Flash, and you definitely have to do an upgrade to MDM version 10.4 to get out of that dependency. You can definitely contact your specific customer success manager, or you can open up a GCS ticket, and they would be glad to help you out in understanding the impact and laying out a plan and helping you out with the upgrade. So by now, I assume you all have understood the flexibility and various options and capabilities of Informatica MDM, and along with the complexity of picking the right version on the right hardware. Now let's understand the different models of installing and managing the MDM environments. So for me, to help you understand the various models, which are like the on-prem or the cloud or the Informatica hosted MDM, I would like to give a simple example and walk you through what each of those options and models would look like. So I would like to take an example of a transportation industry and say I would like to go from point A to point B, and I would like to go by car. And for me to do that particular activity, I could achieve doing that mode of transportation in so many ways. And the very first way is, say, I own a car. So that is similar to an on-prem model where you want to purchase a car, and because it is my car, I would like to customize it. I would like to configure it and make sure that it satisfies my style and my needs and what I would like to project. Just the way like this fully configured Rolls-Royce Phantom. You can see that like this is a fully customized Phantom with pretty much every possible option. There is a custom color that's on the outside. There's a custom wheel type. There's a custom wheelbase. There's a golden symbol of ecstasy. There's a lot of things going on the exterior. And talking about interior, the list of customizations is unreal. Just like that, the on-prem model of MDM offers quite a lot, and you have complete control and opportunity to do whatever your business requires. The next model is a customer managed cloud. This is similar to either like a leasing or renting a car. So you would like to do the same activity like going from point A to point B, and say you don't want to go through the complete exercise of configuring and purchasing a car. You could just say rent a car. And while renting a car makes the whole process shorter and simpler, it also has some differences in comparison to owning a car. So if you're renting a car, you don't have to pay property taxes. You don't have to pay for servicing fees. You don't have to pay a lot of things and manage a lot of things. But at the same time, you don't own the car. So that's the difference. And similarly, if you are trying to host your MDM application on a cloud partner, you have the capability and the features and advantages of getting all your hardwares readily available, easily manageable, and all that. But at the same time, you don't have the complete control over the cloud environment. So the third option is to do a hosted MDM, which is somewhat similar to getting a on-demand version of the car, which is somewhat like using Uber or Lyft. And say you have no idea about the number of people you would like to go. Say today it is just by myself, but tomorrow I have a group of 10 people that would like to join me, and all of us want to go. So today I'll go in a coupe car, in a Uber, but tomorrow I can probably ask for a minivan or something like that, and I don't have to stick to it, and I don't have to purchase a 8-seater and keep it ready for some peak usage. But 90% of the time, it's just 1 or 2 people using the car, but I don't have to maintain that big car. So there are so many options that are available, and there are so many advantages of going with the on-demand version or like the hosted MDM style. So this is like a quick comparison or an example to walk you through the different modes and different styles of MDM implementation. Now that you have understood what a high-level comparison of MDM would look like, let us see a sample on-prem architecture. So for the simplicity's sake, I have taken a very simple installation where I have architected most of the components on a single node of application server. So I'm using the hub server, process server, search math server, the ActiveOS server, the BES services, all of them installed and managed on a single node kind of an instance and a single application server. I have a different dedicated kind of a database, and all my Informatica client tools like provisioning tool, the E360 UI, Hub Console, ActiveOS console are all directly working off of the application server, and all these components are installed on-premise for my particular use case. And this particular Informatica MDM is interfaced to the source systems of your application, of your organization via an ETL tool. In this case, I've chosen Informatica Data Quality as a ETL tool that is communicating the information back and forth from the Informatica MDM software. So I would be using, on an inbound basis, I would be gathering the information from all your enterprise applications which are on-prem, which could be anywhere else. I would transform the data, standardize the data, cleanse the data. And once I have done all the necessary items to get the data into MDM, I put them into the landing tables, run the state jobs, run the load jobs, get it into the base objects, master it, and do all those activities using the core services that an Informatica MDM offers. So this is like a very simple on-premise architecture that I've taken. You could do multi-node architecture, you could do load balancing, you could do so many additional features as part of your on-premise architecture, and that is the advantage of having your own flexibility and freedom when you own your own hardware. So moving on to the cloud hosted or the customer managed cloud hosted architecture. So in this particular situation, as you can see from the previous slide, the whole MDM piece just moved onto the cloud, and pretty much everything else remains the same. The actual installation remains exactly the same. The only difference being the installation instance is living on a cloud network rather than your on-prem network. And then your on-prem applications would communicate via a load balancer or a gateway, and then go into the cloud and then process all the information as per your needs, and then return all the information that you want to extract from your MDM application. And you could be using any use cases of MDM, such as, say, you want to use the data for data integration. You could be doing for cloud integration. You could be using web service API calls using ESB layer. You could be extracting the data for running analytics. You could be creating reports out of the MDM data. So you could do pretty much any activity on-prem, and your MDM is basically hosted on an AWS application. So this is a sample architecture of a cloud architecture. So now, taking it to a level up, I would like to show how Informatica hosted MDM architecture looks like. So similar to the previous architecture, you have your own client customer network. You have Informatica hosted cloud instance. In this case, Informatica is hosting on AWS, and you have your own customer network. So the customer network could be completely on-prem, could be completely cloud, could be a combination of cloud and on-prem, and there could be any number of applications. And all those applications are connecting to Informatica via this Aviatrix VPN gateway, and that is your primary source of connectivity to hosted MDM. And all your applications interact with Informatica MDM via the VPN gateway for all types of activities. And if you just need to put some structured data like files, put it into the environment, or pull a flat file export out of MDM, you use S3 bucket to do that kind of communication. And inside the hosted MDM architecture, you see that there is an additional ETL component that is built into your hosted MDM architecture. So you have a standard edition of data quality, which does pretty much all your ETL inbound and outbound. It can do cleansing, standardization, as we have discussed in an on-prem situation. And the licensing for standard edition data quality is part of your hosted MDM license. You can also have a secure agent, which is basically used for cloud integration using IICS. But if you do not have the licenses for IICS, or you wish not to configure it for MDM, then this is an optional component. And using these tools, you can interact with Informatica MDM. You have all the the critical components which we have discussed in the previous slides. All the server components are on the hosted MDM, and the client components are available in your client network, in your customer network. So these client tools could be your E360, your provisioning tool, your Hub console, your AWS console. All those client tools are available via the gateway, and they are available like a web browser or a thick client version of it, and they are available in your customer network. So now that we have understood all the three different models, let us get in a little more detail into the pros and cons, or the advantages and disadvantages, comparisons across all these three models. So in this particular slide, I would like to go over the effort level comparison across the models. Say you are trying to build your own MDM application. There are so many activities that you would do to build your MDM software. And for the same kind of activity, the level of effort that is involved to achieve that activity could be different based on your type of model that you have chosen. So let's go through this list of activities. So the first one is the sizing estimation. So I'm specifically talking about the sizing of your environment, how big your app server should be, how performant they should be, how many cores of CPU do you need, how much memory do you need, how much storage spaces do you need. All of it depends on various factors like the amount of data that you are getting and the number of source systems that you're interacting with, the type of and the mode of interaction, like batch versus real time, the load of real time, and the number of business users or the data steward users that are involved in it. So all of those factors have an impact on the size of your MDM applications. So the exercise is pretty similar across all of them, but once you gathered all the information, it is so much easier in hosted MDM because there is like a out-of-the-box T-shirt sizing that is available and that is part of your licenses. So you could have like a small, medium, large size of a hosted MDM architecture, and you could start with a particular size, and then based on your progression of your project or addition of sources or elimination of sources, you could either scale up or scale down. And there are so many options that are easily available in hosted MDM versus even after doing the same exercise, you need to do a little more effort to get the perfect sizing on an on-prem versus a customer managed cloud environment. So that is about the sizing estimation. Next activity is the software procurement. So when I'm saying software, this is for the entire implementation of MDM. So you would have your databases like Oracle database, you would have your application server, you would have your monitoring services, you could have your security systems, your networking softwares. You need to basically procure all those softwares. And all of it is basically bundled into your package in a hosted MDM, whereas in an on-prem versus and also the cloud managed, customer managed cloud system, you need to procure all those services by yourself. Similarly, there is an additional step for hardware procurement in an on-prem system because you need to purchase your hardware, you need to build the hardware, you need to get the hardware in order to start your installations and do your processes. This step becomes easy in a customer managed cloud because it's all easily directly available or at the click of a button because of your cloud partner. And it's almost the same in hosted MDM because your sizing estimate will define what are the hardware that you would need, and it is all taken care by Informatica for you. And the next step is about the data center management. Once you have procured your hardware, you need a data center to host those servers. You need to make sure that the data center is appropriately maintained, managed. You need your Unix admins, your security for the data center, all those additional overhead that comes with maintaining your own data centers has to be taken care by you if you're doing an on-prem. And all that activity can be eliminated in a cloud partner and also a hosted MDM kind of a model. The next step is the software installation. I'm talking about MDM software. You can also include the database installation, the app server installation, the connectivity across all of them. So all those activities have to be done and maintained by you as a customer if you're going with either an on-prem model or a customer managed cloud. But if it is a hosted MDM, Informatica basically has the instance ready for you right from the get-go. Similarly, the application architecture and also the HADR. So how many nodes do you need? How many database racks do you need? How much of a SAN storage do you need? How much processing power do you need? How are you going to load balance your requests? How are you going to take care of your batch and real time? How are you going to take care of your high availability, disaster recovery? All those activities have to be carefully created and crafted by you if you're going with on-prem or a customer managed cloud. The high availability and DR is kind of implicit in a cloud environment, so that portion becomes easy out of the box kind of a thing in a cloud and a hosted MDM. But all these activities have to be taken care by yourself if you are going in an on-prem kind of installation. Coming to the service monitoring, this is not a huge activity. It's a smaller activity, but you still have to perform it whatever option you choose. Also coming to the L1, L2, L3 support. I'm giving it a bigger advantage in an on-prem because there is no additional team that is outside your company that you are working with to maintain support or make sure all your applications are up and running. And if there is a problem, you have support in-house and you have better control and oversight into the activities if it's an on-prem versus a cloud and a hosted MDM. It's not that it is difficult, just that because it's an internal team, you would have a little better access, if I may say so. Coming to the application administration, activities like, say, starting a server, stopping a server, adding users to the system, adding new databases like new ORSs, all those activities have to be done by your own team if it's an on-prem or a cloud model. But as part of the hosted MDM, most of those services are readily available as part of the package. The next critical component is upgrading your software, applying patches. Say you want to apply the latest security patches to your database servers or your operating systems or your application server or any other software that is involved in the platform. You have to perform all of it by yourself, manage it, plan for it, and execute it with minimal impact. And all that requires a high level of effort. Whereas in a hosted environment, it is not totally easy, but at the same time relatively less compared to your on-prem and a cloud model. The next component is the hardware upgrades. Say if you need to add new servers, you want to increase the number of cores, you want to add more memory, you again have to go through the hardware procurement cycle, you have to go to the data centers and all those additional activities in an on-prem kind of a situation, but it becomes relatively easy in a cloud and also a hosted MDM. Talking about the scaling of hardware, which is similar to the topic that we just discussed, you want to add more nodes and all, then it's almost a similar kind of an effort estimate. But talking about the software limitations, you have gone through a huge level of effort to get your software up and running in your own environment. So this is where you get the most benefit. So you have a complete availability of all the features of the software in the on-prem and the cloud version. But because it's a hosted environment hosted by Informatica MDM, there are a few components that are either locked down or have some restricted access. So this is the major drawback in a hosted MDM compared to the other ones. And this needs to be considered and vetted out while making the decision. So in the similar lines, the flexibility is also impacted because you don't have 100% feature availability in an hosted MDM system. On the flip side, the implementation time for your project is drastically varies because you have to go through a huge amount of lead activities. Your implementation time for the project is really high on-prem. It is moderately low in a cloud, and it is much lesser in a hosted MDM architecture. There are few customers of ours who went live with their phase one under 90 days of signing a deal on a hosted environment. So versus have been part of projects, it took more than a year to get to that similar kind of a milestone on an on-prem environment. So it takes a lot of extra time to get to that first milestone, but after the first milestones are reached, then there's not much of a difference between the time it takes to roll out additional updates to the project. So similar to that, I have a different slice of that information listed out as roles and responsibilities across models. So as you can see, the major difference where hosted MDM brings is there is no need of you as a customer taking care of your hardware topology. The architecture is already laid out. It's fully vetted out. It has been validated and is functioning for so many customers for over 3 years now. So you don't need an architect doing a hardware topology. You don't need a database administrator. You don't need an app server administrator. You don't need an MDM admin. You don't need a network admin. You don't need an operating system admin. And you don't need to get more services or people who are checking and validating the health of the server, working on making sure the server is up and running 99.9% of the time. So these are the advantages of the hosted MDM, whereas in an on-prem or a cloud, you pretty much have to take care of all the roles and responsibilities. So the roles and responsibilities, I have sliced it based on the phase of the project now. So in this particular slide, what I'm mainly talking about the primary and the secondary responsibility of various parties involved in the project. So in an on-prem situation, you have the customer is taking care of the entire responsibility throughout the phases, all the phases of the project, and Informatica and your infrastructure vendor would be partially responsible during the initial phases for providing you and getting you up to speed to take care of that responsibility. In a cloud situation, the responsibility of the environment lies mostly with your infrastructure vendor. It could be AWS, it could be Azure, or any other cloud provider. And there is a parallel effort from the customer because you need to be working with your infrastructure partner almost all the time, enabling them and also working with them. But when it comes into the hosted MDM side, your responsibility is reduced quite a bit. And Informatica takes up most of the responsibility and becomes the primary responsible party for maintaining your environment for the entire cycle of your projects. So with that, I hope you guys have all gotten a lot of good information about what to do and how to do activities while implementing an Informatica MDM software. So let's get into the questions and answers. So we did receive quite a few questions during the presentation, and a lot of all the questions are answered by the panelists. Let's see if we have any more new questions that are not answered. So there have been a lot of questions with respect to the PAM, the combination of softwares and the versions. As I discussed, we have to be very specific with respect to the major and minor version and the version of MDM that you are trying to use. So say, for example, if you're using 12.2, you are using the 12.201, the very specific minor version for that particular combination of MDM like 10.3 hotfix 1. And if there is a supported version but not certified, that is still capable of providing all the features and capabilities of MDM, and you don't really have to worry of getting to a certified version if you're already on a supported version. But if you're on a version that is totally not available in the product availability matrix, then that is definitely a red flag, and you should plan on getting onto either a certified or a supported version. So the major, there's a question which is asking about the benefits of hosted MDM over on-prem. The core benefits are with respect to how fast you can get your entire environment up and running. As I was mentioning, we have seen few customers who signed a deal to purchase the software, and they were able to go live with their first phase of implementation within 90 days of that. And I've also seen so many other implementations which are taking at least a year, if not longer, to go to that similar kind of a milestone. So that is, in a way, the best return of investment with respect to how you see your product to fructify and get you the required business results from the MDM application. Regarding the hosted MDM SLAs, their SLAs are usually defined while getting the contract done with Informatica. So those SLAs could be with respect to the uptime SLAs, with respect to the responses for real-time SLAs, and so many other categories. So that can be discussed in detail when you are going through the sales cycle. The hosted MDM is worldwide. It's not just in the US. So there's a question asking that is hosted MDM available in Europe or is it available only in the US? So the answer to that is hosted MDM is available in across all geographies, and it can cater to any geographical need. And there is another question with respect to migration from an on-prem MDM to a hosted MDM. This is more of a data migration project, and it is possible, but it requires a lot of steps to be taken care to make sure all your applications are integrated and make sure all the communication is happening the way it was happening on-prem. So it is more like a project. So technically there is an upgrade path and you can do it, but how you do it depends on how you plan to do it, when you want to cut over, and all those other details have to be taken into consideration. So there were other questions with respect to hosted MDM, where we are saying the question is about do we still use the Hub Console for creating the mappings and configuring using the Hub Console versus CDI? We still have to use the Hub Console, and the Hub Console is still available as you do in an on-prem. Just that the server components are on the Informatica's hosted environment, but the client tools will still be accessible the way you do it in the on-prem situation. So there's another question, follow-up question for the migration from on-prem to a hosted MDM regarding how much time it will take to do the migration. So the amount of time totally depends on the level of dependency and the number of applications that are tied to your MDM at the moment. It is more of organizational change. Say if you're moving your data center from place A to place B, the actual technical stuff may be taking X amount of time, but the coordination, the making sure that all other applications are communicated right, you're not providing any downtime to the application. Those are the things that needs to be planned, and those are the things that need more time. But the technical implementation of that promotion will not take a lot of time. We can definitely get into a deeper discussion and give you a better estimate and give you a better understanding if you are really interested in doing that type of migration. But it is, so the migration, it is more of like a DB copy. You are mainly trying to do a backup of your databases and then trying to restore to the cloud. So those are the type of activities that you do for the migration. But we could definitely get in contact with one of our representatives, either your CSM or you can open up tickets and get more information, or you can always use an ask an expert to give the very specific information with respect to your environment. And just as a follow-up, the DB copy and restore is an option available for Oracle customers. If your MDM is using Oracle as your underlying databases, we could do a simple DB copy and restore. But if it is a different database, the steps would differ. So if you would need a very detailed estimate and detailed information about how to migrate, definitely open a request either through your CSM or ask an expert, and we can definitely give you a much more customized answer for your specific needs. So looking at the next question, will IDD be available to customer in hosted MDM? Yes, that is a very critical customer component or a client component, and that is your window into MDM for all kinds of data steward needs. So IDD is the older version of E360. For those of you who may get confused between IDD and E360, so this is still a client component, and you should definitely be able to access it even in a hosted MDM. And just because the topic of IDD came up, we want to make you aware that IDD is on its path for deprecation, and all the new applications and the new solutions should be developed using your provisioning tool and the E360 and the C360 UIs. Try to minimize or try to plan for a path to move out of IDD while you are getting into the versions of MDM version 10.4 and higher. So IDD is on its path to be deprecated. It's not deprecated in 10.4, but it is on its way going out. So we kind of discourage creating new applications on IDD. So there is another question with respect to their current situation where you are using a customer managed cloud and the cloud team is complaining about the lack of friendliness of MDM, and it has a lot of passwords that are exposed, and there are some configuration properties files that are available to the cloud vendor. So the question is there anything that can be done in an MDM for a more cloud friendlier version? So the answer is there are certain features that the software has already gone through with respect to PCI compliance and so many other hackable threats. So certain features are already taken care, but there still may be certain things that are not completely figured out. So if there are specific concerns with respect to your implementation, saying that, you don't want the CMX server properties file to be in plain text, you want it to be encrypted and visible only to a specific set of people, or if you have any new requirement, definitely get in touch with your GCS personnel, and we can take up those requests and see if it is a simple request that can be done like a EBF or that can be rolled out easily. We would try to do it, but if it's a time-taking solution, then we can definitely work with our product management team and see how it fits with the roadmap of the product. So we are just 2 minutes. We have just 2 minutes left in the Q&A. If you have any more questions, please feel free to post your questions. There's a question about the technical documentation on hosted MDM and hosted PIM. So most of the information is available on the Informatica website, and If you need any specific questions to be answered, you can definitely get in touch with your CSM, and we would be able to provide any detailed level information that you would like to get. Yeah, there's another question on the application server in a hosted MDM. So as you have seen the architecture, the application servers would be inside the Informatica managed hosted MDM. So it would be maintained and managed by Informatica for you. So you don't even have to think about installing it, keeping it up and running, having an admin to manage that application server. All of that has been architected into the hosted MDM solution, and it will be managed by Informatica for you. So, and also the database. So the follow-up question was, what about the database for the hosted MDM? So even the database is maintained and managed by Informatica. So you don't need a DBA looking after your MDM databases. So Informatica will take care of making sure the database is up and running. It is responsive. It has sufficient CPU cycles left to give all the services for your application. So all that is taken care by Informatica in a hosted MDM. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. I think we have answered quite a lot of questions, but if you still have any more pending questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we will be able to answer your questions and queries either via Ask an Expert or through GCS tickets. We would be happy to help you understand the capabilities of hosted MDM and also give you information on providing a path to upgrading to hosted MDM if you are interested in that. So with that, thank you everyone, and thanks for participating and providing all the information.